So next we're going to talk about edges. So edges are things like this edge here, where it's a really high contrast between the light and the dark tones. So you can really use that as a signpost. So at the moment mine looks like a medium tone edge. So I'm going to increase the pressure to really give it contrast like in the original photograph. So because this is a shadow, I'm going to step up to a 5B pencil, just that way I don't have to press down quite so hard. So you can adjust the shape of things. You can check your angles. Now what you want is a patch of tone, so it's not like a line like you can see here, it's just a patch. So your shading is coming up to the edge of that shape. So next I'm going to work on getting this highlight on the edge of this piece of icing. So in order to get that highlight, I'm just going to do a little bit of blending, and then I'm going to use my rubber. So I'm going to need quite a sharp rubber to really lift up that tone. And then you can bring in any more textures or shading that you want to. So you can see already this section is looking a lot more refined. So here you need to decide, is this tone darker than the background tone? So in this case it is. So there's a couple of ways you can differentiate this. You could get your rubber and rub back the background a little bit and start to define some of these bits of icing. So I'd like to try and emphasize this corrugation a little bit more. So I'm still working light to dark, and I'm really increasing the shadows in between. So as I'm working over this side, I don't want to smudge what I've just done, so I'm going to put the piece of paper just to cover it for a moment while my hand is resting. So when I was talking about the more advanced techniques, it's going to be things like this. So this napkin at the back is actually slightly out of focus, so you're going to need to blend in that edge. So the edge is quite a fluffy looking edge. Now if you feel like you've gone too far, then you can always use your rubber to bring that crispness back. Okay, now as part of my advanced technique, I'm going to be using this. Now this is an electronic rubber, so it has batteries in this end, and this rubber rotates. So you can draw with it, you can almost draw lines with it. It's particularly good if you want to do little dots. So for example, the dots on the napkin. So if you're going to get really into drawing, I would say this is an absolute must. So in many ways, the most important edge that you need to be working on is this edge along here. So you're probably going to spend a significant amount of time. You don't want a line, so even though I'm almost adding in a bit of a line, I am going to be blending this slightly, but it won't look like a line. So I'm quite happy to leave that different sort of texture. You might want to blend some areas in, so this area here for example, you might not want it to look quite so rough, and you can kind of blend it into what is already there. So I'm just going to see what it looks like once I've cleaned up the edges. So your drawing might go to the edge, so you won't have to do this stage. So in step 3, we've added the details, we've picked out some highlights, and we've really refined each of the shapes. So one thing you are aiming for is to really look at those edges. So this edge here is very soft, whereas this edge here is high contrast, so is very, very dark. So really start thinking about your work in terms of edges. So this edge here is quite crisp. The napkin is a little bit softer because it's made out of a softer material. So it's the edges that's really going to be the final stage in making your work look really three-dimensional.